A lot of the time, video games aren't meant to be high art. They're meant to serve a purpose, and a lot of the time they do. But sometimes, they're just way stupider than they need to be. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 of the dumbest games ever. Starting off with number 10, Nathan Morgan Dilemma. It's the world's worst detective versus the most incoherent criminals in Nathan Morgan Dilemma. Wait, you're telling me you don't know about the world-famous detective Nathan Morgan? Strap in, folks. There is so much to talk about here. So, the professor has been murdered, and it's up to you, world-famous detective Nathan Morgan, to investigate the clues, interrogate the suspects, and crack the case. In theory, that's what's supposed to happen. In reality, you're wandering around completely lost, pixel hunting for clues that seem to appear randomly while trying to decipher some utterly incoherent dialogue. It's all pre-made assets and AI voiceover, which would suck in a real game, but when combined with the 3 times through Google Translate caliber script, it ends up comedy gold.
James and Richard served the army at the same time, same place, and when Richard was drummed out, James employed him in order not that he becomes homeless.
Well then.
Nathan Morgan is apparently some kind of super detective, but it's not supported by anything that happens in the game. Simple concepts seem to elude this man. The maid complains about her job, for instance, and our boy Nathan's takeaway is to loudly wonder why she still works here if she hates her job.
Something is dilemma I can't see. Both she complains about her job and she stays in the same place. I need to find out the reason.
Nobody ever does a job they don't like. I've never heard of that, ever. Oh wait, that's right. Every job before Game Ranks for me. Whatever. Let's move past it. The gaggle of idiots in this mansion are not much better. When asking the mother if she gets along with her kids, she says this absolutely baffling line.
First of all, I just want you to know that I am a mother. Just as a mother is to her children, I am to them.
Oh yeah, that's really... what? When you use like or as, it's a simile, okay? So her simile is that she's like a mother. Just like a mother is to her children, I am to them. I am a mother. I am a mother because I'm like a mother. Not good logic, actually. Whatever. We're going to move past that, too. Things get really spicy when you ask the mother how she argues with her daughter. Seems like a normal enough question, but she counters with this all-time whatever this is.
Her fucking badass boyfriend changed her into money grubbing. Her father wasn't giving money to her by reason of that bastard.
Amazingly, everyone just calls this guy a badass. Like, they love this dude. You never see him, but apparently he's a real beast. And according to an actual line in the game, doesn't even have to be around to give his girlfriend an orgasm. That's a real line. I'm not making that up. Someone says that in this game. Which, by the way, I don't need to hear the word orgasm in a game ever. Give me all the curses you want, but awkward, stilted dialogue about orgasms, not my thing. I mean, it's my thing if we're talking about how funny it is, but if we're regarding this as serious art, no. The more you play this game, the more obvious it is that Nathan is just a terrible detective. People give this guy layups all the time, and he just doesn't follow up on it. Like the kid, who, by the way, is not normal as hell. Another line from the game, folks. He leaves a drawing with blood and graves on it, which is pointing to a spot that you'd think would be a good idea to investigate, but for some reason you have to ask like 3 other people about the drawing before our brilliant detective decides, maybe I should look into these graves that this child depicted so grimly. It's not out of the ordinary for children to draw graves with blood. That's not questionable behavior at all. No, I need somebody else to figure that one out for me. Also, make sure you find the shovel so you can dig them up and see what's buried there. But wait, there's also a pistol just sitting there. Wasn't there before. Went back, checked, just appears when you try to dig up the grave. So you find the murder weapon, but then your guy gives up on digging the grave. Apparently, he went through the ADHD program for detective work. And by that, I mean a program that instills ADHD into your detective work. Not like one that compensates for it, which I think would be how a program probably should work. But whatever, I don't know. This guy's the expert, right? Sure, the crime scene's on the stairs, but no, we need to not bother investigating that. Oh, everyone says they were sleeping during the murder, even though you know that the professor died from gunshot wounds. You know, loud gunshot wounds that come from guns that make lots of noise. And don't pull like an, oh, he used a silencer excuse with me on this one. We're talking detective games. Those should understand that silencers don't actually silence anything. And get this, this game is barely an hour long. And if it was any other game, this would be hours of content that this much weird is in. But I've talked this much about a game that is barely an hour long.
So what? Was your boyfriend here?
There's no need for him to be here to make me an orgasm.
And number 9 is Dinner Date. You probably heard of the walking simulator. The genre of games where you walk. That's pretty much it. You walk and you look at stuff. People have argued whether these sorts of experience games really count as video games at all. But I don't really care about that here. Here comes Dinner Date, like walking simulator. Who cares about that? This is a sitting simulator. That's the game. You play as a sad sack schlub sitting in his dinky little kitchenette waiting for a date to arrive. You can press certain keys to trigger context actions like look at the clock or look at the kitchen, all with his tragic loser incessantly mumbles to himself. That's the game.
I don't know, just eating bread by myself here. If I had just let it be dancing with the guys, I might go.
You sit there, you press buttons and do nothing, and you wait until the game decides to transition to the next thrilling twist in the story. Sounds boring, but strap yourself in for some excitement. He drinks a glass of wine, eats some bread. No one will be seated when he drinks a second glass of wine. Slow down with these epic set pieces here. I can barely keep up. At the end, it seems like the date's finally here, so he rushes to the door, but it ends in tragic disappointment because of course it does. Have you seen these hands? There's no way they're modeling an actual human woman. That's it. That's the game. Guy gets disappointed and decides to go out. He got drunk after 2 glasses of wine. Roll credits. It takes less than 20 minutes to play through this whole thing. Is my life more enriched by this? Did I learn something new about the human condition? No. I pressed some buttons, listened to a dork complain about his life insufferably, and it cost me $3.99. It's not a lot of money or anything, but I still might as well just flush it down the drain. The only redeeming factor about this whole endeavor is that for some reason, a dinosaur comic strip plays a certain role. Remember when webcomics were big? That takes me back. Is this whole thing some kind of elaborate troll? I don't know. Trick question though. Doesn't matter. Whether it's intentionally a joke or not, you're a sucker.
Damn! I can't stand she didn't show up. So much depended on it, didn't it?
And number 8 is The Fast and the Furious Crossroads. What happens when you take a dumb but entertaining movie series and take out everything that's entertaining? You're left with what's dumb. A Fast and Furious game could be great for obvious reasons. Cool cars, big explosions. Just make a big open world driving game with more guns and you got something. But that's not what Fast and Furious Crossroads is. Instead, it's a hyper-linear game where the driving sucks. On top of that, the story's a total flatline. Nothing makes any sense. It sucks. The game starts off with a spectacularly goofy car chase against a G.I. Joe playset tank with flamethrowers.
We need to take out that flamethrower.
Yeah, well, you try it driving blind. I can't see a thing here.
Look for the 3 fuel tanks on the back.
I see them.
Use the harpoon to pull those tanks off.
Now that's amusing, but that's all the game is. Amusing. That first mission pretty much introduces you to all of the gameplay that you will see the whole time, which boils down to drive to a location while literally nothing is happening, drive to a different location, crash a few cars. Sometimes you gotta press a button, do a mini game, use a harpoon, hacking device, rocket launcher, whatever. They're all functionally the same and do the same things. There are races, but those are basically just driving to a location too. There's no mini map because why? What would you need that for? There's no map. It's just an endless series of linear corridors you can't escape from. There's a few set pieces to spice things up. That's it. The only thing left to actually engage with is the story, and it's terrible. Instead of focusing on the characters from the movies, which would have cost more money, this game introduces 2 new and extremely boring characters to follow. One hates technology, and the other, get this, likes technology. One tells terrible jokes, and the other doesn't have any discernible character traits. One's black, one's white, one has long hair, one has short hair. Oh my god, wow. Wow, what a dynamic duo. Sure, Vin Diesel and Rodriguez are sleepwalking through their brief appearances, but at least listening to Vin mumble his way through expository dialogue is amusingly dumb instead of just boring, which the rest of the game is just boring. There's so much nonsense in this story, like how the family has a small army of armed Interpol soldiers at their beck and call, but they just sort of pretend like they're not there. Also, this gigantic armored train appears out of nowhere, which is... I don't know how the bad guys were able to make a train that's so quiet no one heard it coming, but they were able to hide the train tracks, and the train is so surprising that the heroes immediately forget their entire entourage and just pretend they were never there.
Something's not right. Get back!
The game's full of just total nonsense like that. Under a microscope, nothing that's happening makes any kind of rational sense. Now, with the movies, you can overlook that nonsense because you're going to get some spectacular action sequences, and genuinely, the movies are fun. For everything that's wrong with them, there's something they do right, particularly just in kind of oozing personality and community even. But this game, all it has to offer is some of the floatiest, most unsatisfying car combat I've ever experienced in a big budget game. There's some funny stuff, but there's a lot of boring padding to get to it, and it's not worth that. I'd say stay as far away from this game as you can, but it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. It's been delisted. Couldn't play it if you wanted to. At number 7 is Ride to Hell Retribution. To give this game some credit, it's at least a little more ambitious than Crossroads. You can actually walk around on foot. Does that necessarily make it better? No, it's actually worse. A lot worse, and somehow dumber. You know you're in trouble the minute the game starts up. There's this really awkward cold opening where they cycle through a few epic moments in the story, presented in the most stilted, awkward way you could possibly imagine. You're firing a turret, and now you're in a QTE fistfight, and now you're jumping on a ramp, which is supposed to get you all hyped up, but it doesn't, just fills you with dread. You play as Jake Conway, a weirdly proportioned slab of meat who is, of course, after revenge. The actual plot doesn't matter because it's basically your dude systematically killing all the bad guys with little resistance. The game's totally linear, split up between terrible driving segments and terrible on-foot action segments. Nothing feels good to do. A lot of the animations are embarrassingly bad.
You look like shit, Jake.
Yeah. I feel like shit, Mac.
Welcome, old boy.
And the actual events happening before your eyes, this is a running theme with this type of game, but rarely makes any kind of sense. Right, look at the driving segments. They're just these endless stretches of road that don't actually connect anything. You just start in the middle of the road, you drive forward for an arbitrary amount of time, and then the mission ends. Just ends. Even though you're supposed to be in the middle of nowhere, there's so much construction and crashed trucks blocking the road, and random bikers, they want to kill you. They're there, and they want to kill you. The bike controls, of course, are terrible, and the combat, laughable. You just sort of press buttons if you touch a bad guy, and then they immediately choose death and drive straight into a nearby picket fence, which somehow causes their bike to explode. The shooting is just regular terrible, but the real highlight of the awfulness, it's the sex scenes. Like I said, I don't want to hear the word orgasm in a game, much less see a sex scene. And it's not that I am a prude or anything, it's the uncanny valley. While they've certainly got past a lot of stuff with that, they have not cleared this hurdle. And for all the cringe that overly sexual dialogue might be, sex, much more cringe in a video game. Like the best sex scene in a video game out there. It's off. There's something weird about it, you know? And this ain't the best. And it's not even close. Every so often, Jake Conway will just randomly encounter a woman, and you like beat up a guy or something, and then the game immediately cuts to the most awkward video game sex you've ever seen. Oh, and did I mention the music that plays during these? Yeah, you know, stereotypical porn music? That's it. It's that. But if there's one moment in this stupid game that's really burned into my brain, it's the part where Jake Conway needs to get over an electric fence. This is legendary in how insane it is. What does our boy do? Does he crash his car through the fence? Does he shoot the breaker box like Metal Gear Solid? No, what are you? Are you stupid? He does the obvious thing and hijacks a fuel truck, gets into a high-speed car chase with the police, drives into a power plant, kills all the workers inside the plant, for some reason, then blows up the truck. And it's not to like destroy the fence, it's to turn the power off for it. It's one of the most bafflingly stupid sequences I've seen in a video game. I could not believe what I was privy to. And number 6 is Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. It's a game where it's hard not to laugh literally when you see it. Like, whose idea was this? It's the combination you've all been asking for. Like, yeah, Marvel versus Capcom is kind of precedent. Capcom's made a few Marvel fighting games. It got Darkstalkers, it got Street Fighter, and all that stuff. The Capcom universe, to some extent, makes sense. Hey, we got all these different fighting games. Let's combine them. Mortal Kombat is a fighting game, and DC Universe is not a fighting game. It's the DC Universe. And literally the only reason this game was made was because Warner Brothers had access to DC characters. The Mortal Kombat brand was pretty much in the toilet, and they were throwing ideas at the wall, hoping something might stick. I don't know why this was what they went with. I don't really see a Mortal Kombat missing all of its unique features, sticking to the wall, so to speak. Fatalities were neutered. Blood is barely there. The heroes can't even do much of anything Mortal Kombat.
Kano wins.
And like Mortal Kombat in the DC universe, they're like oil and water. They just don't work. Characters like Batman and Superman are explicitly against killing. It's a large part of their thing. So you put them into a game series famous for death animations, and I don't know, what did they expect? What did they expect? They replaced fatalities with the much lamer heroic brutalities. But that doesn't mean that the fatalities that were in the game were less lame. They actually were as lame. And that's not the only stupid thing about the game. Mechanically, it's a mess. It's got this weird 2.5D combat system with 3D arenas, but 2D movement. There's multiple transition gameplay segments where you're falling or getting smashed through walls that are very awkward. The fighting system feels stilted as hell. It's just not a good fighting game. The DC heroes look terrible, too. Just the most generic, forgettable versions of these characters. The story mode is, you guessed it, very dumb. They just explain away every fight with combat rage, which makes everyone want to fight for some reason. Look at him. His brain is poisoned with rage to the point where he can't control himself, but for some reason he still doesn't kill. Makes sense. But at least they did try a story mode, which gets a little slack because it was the first NetherRealm story mode. But yeah, it's really dumb. It's not unplayable bad or anything, but as far as fighting games go, it's one of the most inexplicable crossovers out there. It's two great tastes that don't go together. And number 5 is Crying Is Not Enough. You know you got a winner when there's two separate attributed quotes less than 4 minutes into the game. They couldn't pick one. We needed to hear from Mario Puzo and Ayn Rand. The vision demands it. Crying Is Not Enough is a horror game that really wants to be Silent Hill 2. They also want to be Hideo Kojima with all the fourth wall breaking arcade game stuff and a weird military story, but Kojima, the director, was not. Say what you want about Kojima, but when it comes to game design, he gets it. And this game doesn't. This is an embarrassing mess. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Guy in a green jacket is searching for his missing wife. Only this time, instead of just going into a foggy town, our hapless hero is recruited into a secret mission to infiltrate a military island. Sure, why not? That's when the actual game starts, and man, it ain't pretty. It's like Resident Evil if the map was way too big, with respawning enemies and no clear direction as to what you're supposed to do or even where to go. Sometimes doors are walls, sometimes they're doors, and it's not really possible to tell by looking at them when they are. You gotta bump up against them. Certain triggers can just break, forcing you to restart the whole game over again. Huge mess. Story overwrought and stupid, but the ending is what makes the game legendary. The epic finale where the main guy confronts his father, who exposits for several minutes straight while our guy just stands there dumbfounded. The big twist is revealed. the entire time you want a revenge, but also your wife want a revenge against you because you're from completely made up countries or something. It's a convoluted mess, but how it's resolved is just absolutely perfection. Your wife presses a button and they hit explosives on the main guy and he just blows up. Fool! And we get to watch Essie's head, which is literally the head model removed from the rest of the body, as in there's a straight line where his shirt once was, gloriously tumbles through the air as the music swells. It is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen in a video game. A+ for absurdity's sake. And it's supposed to be serious, which makes it much funnier. At number 4 is Balan Wonderworld. This is one of those games where every step of the way, all you can do is just wonder, what were they thinking? What caused them not to do good? Just so much what is going into this one. So much makes no sense from a story or a game design perspective. It's one of those things that looks like a real game from far away, but the more time you spend with it, the more it leaves you scratching your head. Like, did you know they released a book tie-in for this game? There is a book for this little kiddie game that barely has a story to begin with. That is the first of many very bizarre choices. Perhaps not even the weirdest. Let's talk about the one-button control scheme. What? I'm sorry, but that is just too simplistic. You can literally do one action in a certain costume, that's it. And you can't even jump on command unless you've got a costume that lets you jump.
Hey! Poof!
It's extremely limiting. Like, it makes the game feel like it was designed for literal babies. But then there's cutscenes that deal with more complex emotions that, I don't know, babies don't understand. Babies are kind of best known for thinking people are gone when they put their hands in front of their face and then are surprised when the person opens their hands like a door and says peekaboo. That's what babies are famous for. So, seems like this game is a little much for them. The level design, totally bizarre as well. All the ghostly figures that follow you around, they aren't charming, they're creepy. And everything's dancing all the time. It's not charming though, it's definitely creepy. It's hard to explain, but their movement's just so weightless and awkward. Like they motion captured the movements of a real person and slapped it onto a cartoon. The music is quite good, but everything else feels very lifeless and uncanny. There's a lot of other bizarre choices, like the fact you can't even play as the titular character. There's a lot of extremely boring QTE minigames called Balan's Bout, where you, I guess, sort of control Balan, but that's it. It's weird the first story character you deal with is a farmer, right? Like, that's something kids can relate to. I mean, I guess, look at Farmer John. I don't know. It seems wrong. Everything does in this game. It makes it fascinating, but also pretty frustrating to play. And number 3, The Walking Dead Destinies. Bad game, dumb game, in many, many ways, right? Like, we've talked about this game a lot. So is everybody. But let's be real, the thing we're all here for is the cutscenes, the gloriously bad cutscenes. You do not just watch these things, you experience them.
Nothing has happened here. We're gonna lay down our guns. We're gonna walk back to the farm. Together. Back to Lori. Put this all behind us.
Bullshit. This only ends one way. Only one of us is going back to that farm. Sorry, brother. We were doing just fine without you. Then you come back and just destroy everything.
In 2023, we got the double whammy of Rise of Kong and this, both coming from the very appropriately named Game Mill. Because, man, these guys crank them out. It's a name that doesn't exactly inspire confidence. And it shouldn't, of course, because both these games are bad. They're both cheap, rushed piles of garbage, but Walking Dead Destiny is probably funnier. Because of cutscenes, obviously. Seeing these ugly facsimiles of characters from the show make these dumb expressions at each other, it is the reason to experience the game, because otherwise, it's just awful.
Shane, you can't just let some murderer stay here, sleeping right next door to your unborn child.
You don't know me. You don't know nothing about me. This is how it's gonna go.
The levels are tiny, the combat's janky and awkward. The story's so truncated that I feel like it would be completely incoherent to somebody who's not already a fan of the franchise. And the graphics are, well, you're looking at them. They would have been outdated a decade ago. The gameplay sucks, plain and simple. And the branching story mechanics, they barely even matter. They're kind of a cool idea, but even the biggest change, whether Rick kills Shane or vice versa, it barely matters, because if you do kill Rick, Shane just acts exactly like him for the rest of the game. That leads to one of the most baffling scenes ever. In anything else, even talking about this would be awkward, but the presentation is just so bad it doesn't matter. The part where Lori dies in childbirth is just insane. The cuts, the faces, it's just incredible how inept this game and its presentation are. Like, look at this.
I'm sorry. I couldn't. I'm so sorry.
No. No. No, no, no. No, no, no!
Moving on to number 2, plumbers don't wear ties. Anyone remember when garbage like this was supposed to be the wave of the future? Put down those baby games like Mario and Sonic. This is what the cool kids are playing. A barely disguised softcore porn game that's so half-assed it makes Night Trap on the Sega CD look like a masterpiece in comparison. It starts off with some actual video, but don't get used to that. Pretty much the entire rest of the game is just static screenshots with audio playing over it. Maybe they'll sneak in a video toaster, star wipe, or something if they're really feeling spicy. Like, look at this title screen. It looks like it was made in MS Paint. Such is the power of the 3DO. This is one of those games where they try to paper over how crappy it all is with fourth wall breaking humor. And, well, let's just say when you can't do anything else right, doesn't seem like it's good to think that you're going to do that right. Because they don't. It's all really, really awkward and bad.
Mr. Thresher, I don't have a lot of money. I was counting on this job, praying for this. Oh, God. Mark, I'm desperate.
Life isn't that harsh. Give Jane something to hope for.
Poor Jane. She got turned away.
Note, you must be 18 or over to take a look at this decision.
You know, perhaps something can be worked out after all.
Yes?
Take your clothes off, Jane.
Now see how your sick curiosity led Jane into this mess? My God, what kind of perverted monster are you?
Jane says no to this disgusting proposal.
If you really enjoyed the shower scene in this storyline, check out this decision.
Apparently, pretty much this entire game was filmed in a parking lot. Like, they filmed all of the audio just standing outside. Also, so many of the choices here don't make any sense. There's random objects edited into scenes, nonsensical cutaways. It's just all around embarrassing in a way that few games are. But most of all, it's dumb. Everything is dumb. Every line is dumb. Everyone has these goofy, dumb expressions. The story is cartoonish and pointless. It's dumb. Everything is so stupid.
Well, if you think I'm that type of girl, you got another thing coming, mister. Because I don't do one-night stands, I don't date musicians, and I don't roll over just because you bought in this game. Fair warning, I'll be resisting your every move and enjoying your every mistake. I trust it won't be the first time you made mistakes with the opposite sex.
Want to talk about. Let's move on to the last of this. Finally, at number 1, The Ring: Terror's Realm. The Dreamcast is a legendary console. There was tons of great stuff on it, but there was also a lot of dumb crap. For whatever reason, there are so many Resident Evil knockoffs on this console, and they all happen to be some of the goofiest games ever made. I'm talking about Deep Fear, Blue Stinger, Ill Bleed, D2, which, by the way, is not the sequel to a previous Mighty Ducks game, although that probably would have been better. and Uncarrier, all Dreamcast games, all extremely stupid. Any one of these games would feel at home on a list like this, except Illbleed, that's at least intentionally dumb, but the crowning achievement in the field of stupidity has to go to The Ring: Terror's Realm.
I'm Meg. Please, you have to help me.
I do not know where to start with this. It's a Ring sequel where a big chunk of the story is set in virtual reality, complete with Goofy Tron suit and cyberpunk shades. The voice acting, the FMV cutscenes, the music are all laughably bad.
No! No, I can't believe it's Robert! No!
You okay, lady?
Meg, what's going on over there? Like, hey man, what's happening here?
Hold on a moment, sir.
I know the two of them. They're friends. What happened? I don't believe this.
I see.
Oh, Meg.
Could you explain your relationship to either her or the victim?
Yeah, I know the two of them. They're both my friends. I'm Jack, and this is Robert's girlfriend, Meg.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm
what
sorry.
What happened to Robert?
The Office, which serves as a hub for the game, has this endlessly repeating music track that feels like it's 5 seconds long and repeats, like I said, nonstop. It's way too loud. You spend half the game listening to it, and you just start feeling like you're going insane after a while. It is torture. Just plain and simple. Like, did you know at Guantanamo Bay they played Metallica's Enter Sandman at high volume to torture people? Yeah, it's like that, except for Enter Sandman is a good song. This is not good music at all. But of course they put the most obnoxious music in the one area you're forced to wander around forever to figure out what you're supposed to do. When you do finally get into the VR simulation, you would think this horror game might start trying to be actually scary, but that's a big no. The monsters that stalk this virtual world are big, goofy monkey men, like, give me a banana type goofy monkey men. Game's just a non-stop cavalcade of nonsense, but it's so unpleasant to actually play that it's literally painful to experience. Watching a long play won't even spare you the torture. The music just doesn't stop. And before I cut out and finish all this up, a special mention needs to go to the title screen. Somehow, they managed to make this title screen incredibly stupid, because when you hit the button to start, instead of like your usual Resident Evil startup sound, this game hits you with splat.wave. Somehow, an entire team of developers and the publisher and everybody else who can make any decisions thought that this was an appropriate way to start up, introduce the game, set the tone. It's so dumb. You'd think it's some kind of parody, but it's not. This is a serious game. It's supposed to be serious. The Ring: Terror's Realm. You press start and splat.wave. Cool. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.